Government and Public Safety to order. Taking attendance, Lynn?
Yes.
All right.
No empty seats.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will hear comments from citizens. Hearing none, I will now close the comments from citizens section. Moving on to general government and finance. Under economic development, we have the credit report.
My name is Barry Stevens, and the president of Credit, and I'd like to know how I got moved to the front of the list. Wasn't on the front before.
We shuffle the departments from meeting to meeting just so somebody's not always first and always last.
Just kidding. I'd like to take care of a formality. Catherine, I'd like to present you with a certificate of appreciation for your past service as a board member of the Centralia Regional Economic Development Incorporated. Thank you so much for your service for 2012.
Thank you, I appreciate
And
this. This is nice.
Understand you.
Swivel around this way.
You are a member now, so you're going to be around for a while, I think.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, got the report. I don't know how much of this we want to go through. We don't have to go through as much of the first part. But if you have any questions, I would like to really kind of get to the part about the ad hoc committees and talk about our meetings that we've had the last 2 weeks. The report on the certified welding program is that there is a contract pending approval with Hubble and the Centralia school system, and that is being worked on. We look for that to become completion and start soon. Nobody's given a date yet, but that is proceeding on, and we are checking on that periodically to make sure that it doesn't stall out again like it had done before. So as far as the Columbia Solar Panel Project, we had a tour. We actually got Jess in there for a tour with Hubble, with John Blivin. And he kind of basically asked us at the end of that tour if there was anything that we could do with our organization to try to facilitate them selling City of Columbia foundations for these solar panels. And we said we'd check into it. We called and ready and talked to Bernie Andrews. He set up a meeting with Tina Worley, who's the City Columbia procurement manager, utilities procurement manager. I believe that's her title. And then through the course of discussions about setting up that event, that's kind of how the dinner train thing got all started. So we'll kind of put that together too. But in the course of that conversation, we did bring up the possibility of maybe dinner train and Anchorfest. And Bernie said, well, he would have Chris Tolson from the dinner train there and Amy Schneider, who is the Columbia Visitor and Tourism Center Director, at this meeting as well. So Donnie Rogers and I went to that meeting and we had the dinner train part first. And they were so enthusiastic that we were kind of taken aback a little bit because we didn't know what to expect. So the whole dinner train thing kind of evolved out of that very preliminary meeting before we even got to the Hubble thing. So in discussing Hubble with Tina Worley, it was suggested that we go back to Hubble and try to get those two lined up again. And when we came back to Hubble, it appeared that they had already kind of been down that road before. And then actually there was a whole lot of things that had happened that we weren't even aware of, nor did City of Columbia tell us about when we were there, which we thought kind of odd. But Hubble had been there and already had, in the last 2 years, had worked with them and already made some demonstrations and stuff at the Colt facility there where the solar panels are as you go into Columbia on Route B. So that's when we decided to get Caleb Rowden involved. And so Hubble, John Living called him, I emailed him, and through that process, he set up a meeting with the mayor of Columbia. And so now we have a meeting at the mayor's office with 3 people from Hubble, 3 people from Cray, Caleb Rowden, and the mayor. And I wouldn't even thought that would have been possible 5 months ago. So Caleb opened the meeting talking about what the purpose was of the meeting, and that was the solar panel foundations that Hubble was manufacturing. And then kind of opened it up to us, and I basically just said we're here in support of Hubble and the Centralia area, especially in light of the announcement by A.B. Chance to invest $8 to $12 million in the facility here. The first question the mayor asked was, how much of a part did the EEZ play? And John Bliven responded that it did play a part. It wasn't like the sole decision maker, but it certainly played a part and was going to help. So the mayor got a little bit red-faced and he said, so you're telling me you're getting a 50% personal property tax rebate? And John Bliven quickly responded, no sir, 70%. And so the mayor, he was a little consternated to say the least, a little disappointed in their own efforts to try to do that there. So I thought that was rather interesting. It looks like that's gonna progress. We're not sure. There's a lot of factors involved with the anchoring project and the foundations and all that. There is work towards that. We feel very optimistic in that regard. The FBLA project, we had asked them about if they were interested in doing the John Oliver parking lot right across the way here. But I understand that has been awarded to, I believe, to the Boy Scouts. So I think that group has the parking for the Anchor Fest that John has offered there. And then Jess Lingle, our intern, has one more meeting with us and he'll wrap things up. All of his work that he's done, he's put in a Google Cloud. So you guys that are tech savvy may know what that is, but so we should be able to have access to that freely. And we have also then just hired, that's not on here, we've hired a new intern starting the 28th of May, and his name is Ryan Wynn, and he's also a University of Missouri student, and is very, from all intents and purposes, appears to be a very good candidate. So we're optimistic about that. And then we did invoice the city for the service contract amount. So, new business, we're looking at the office space at Boone County Bank. They have offered a room there for a meeting space, and we've been checking on cost of phone and internet for that, so that looks to be reasonable. And now the dinner train, we did some preliminary work on that, and we're looking at a Sunday excursion. The dinner train was very willing to work on price for that. They're actually offering, on top of their regular fee that they charge normally, which is $59 and some change, they're going to offer a $17 and some change non-food ticket. So we're hoping that, and the goal is for them to pull into town at 11, they'll load it at Colt at 10, pull into town at 11, and then they'll leave at 4, and we'd like to catch both of the Christian music concerts and the car show. That's the goal. And then get everybody back on. The Norfolk and Southern, under threat of extreme duress, said no way are you going to pull that train on their line, which we kind of already knew, but we figured it didn't hurt to ask. And so it looks like what will have to happen is the Sims crossing and the sidewalk there, and we can get right on a bus. So my understanding, James had just told me, and when talking to Jenny just a few minutes ago, that we had the insurance question was the only thing left outside of some volunteer details, volunteer people and things like that. But my understanding, the insurance for the train and the festival part has been decided upon and agreed upon. It's the insurance for the buses. And we were looking at using the school buses from the Centralia School District to bus the people back and forth 54 people on a car, 4 cars, so you could have, 200 plus people. And this is going to be marketed through all the Facebooks, all the websites. Ready is going to push the flyer to all their investors. Columbia Chamber of Commerce is going to push it to all theirs, which is 2,000 businesses plus. And then we have the churches. And by the time, if 3 or 4 youth group churches get their youth groups together, I don't think, just can't see any reason why they couldn't fill the train. But we're running out of time, and these last minute things, being the first time, all the bases need to be covered. So that's kind of where that's at right now. And we did report that the Hubble application for the EEZ was approved. And does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
I didn't get the Mayor McDavid's, reaction. Was that, in sympathy, or was he against the EZs in general, or was he maybe upset that they didn't get theirs passed, or?
That's the truth.
I think that's it.
He was very upset. And our comment was, 30% is better than nothing. And that's always kind of been the contention of the EEZ board, and he fully agreed with that.
Yeah.
And he has trouble understanding how come they could not get theirs through.
Well, and if it's not being spent in taxes, their investment, they would have spent more, had more available to spend on projects. Would that be right?
If they hadn't got the tax abatement,
Right.
they would have less to spend.
They would have less to spend,
Yes.
but being that they aren't gonna pay it out in taxes, they could actually do more for.
Yes, that's
Right.
my understanding, yes. Either not spend as much and use it for something else, or use it to enhance what they're already doing. Either way, it's a savings for them.
Okay, and so anyway, I just kind of, I find that interesting.
Yeah, I think, the mayor of Columbia was one of the people that wanted the EEZ.
So all in all, it wasn't long ago that Mayor McDavid had a big push for shopping local in Columbia. He was fairly receptive to the Hubble basis, or can you enlighten us on how that discussion went? I don't understand exactly how they went with the other company to start out with. Was it bid that much cheaper, or?
They're working with Columbia is working with a company called Free Energy,
Right.
and they are the ones that they're the ones that are buying the solar panels from other manufacturers and the foundations. Now, according to Hubble, they designed their foundation to match what Free Energy was purchasing, and made demonstrations at Coat Line by putting those anchors in the ground. In other words, they spent money on design, engineering design, they spent money on installation to show them what they had. They decided not to do that. And my understanding is what I've been told by Mr. Blivin, was that the anchors that they're purchasing, that Free Energy is purchasing, is coming from China, and somehow they look eerily similar to Hubble's. Now, did they copy it or whatever? I don't know. But we do know they are buying it from offshore companies. And so the argument that was made by Hubble is that we're 18 miles down the road. Now, what
You got
happened?
Columbia people working, building these.
110 Columbia residents work at Hubble Centralia, according to Mr. Blivin. And so the argument is that, hey, you need to pull 18 miles down the road here and buy. And they were willing to work with them, he said, on design, price. We're willing to do what we need to do. So I don't think the obstacle is Hubble by any stretch of the imagination.
So it's a third party, in between guy that made that decision.
Yes.
So, okay.
Now,
So how much pull does Columbia have in renegotiating it? Or is it just in future
Well,
projects going forward?
It's much like this council, I think their council has to approve the contract for whatever they're gonna do. My understanding is there's a 12-step project in this, and the coat line is just the first of 12 installations.
Okay,
And so the next installation is $500,000 is what they're looking at for phase 2. And I'm not sure where that was at. They named a bunch of places of where all these were gonna be. But it's a master project plan that they've got in place, and they're using this free energy company to facilitate this.
so 1 of 12 got away,
Yes.
1 of 12, so plenty to go.
And there's several advantages to the Hubble systems because they can pull them out of the ground and reuse them.
Yeah.
If they change the design the only real danger that I understood is that there's a tax incentive that's going away in a couple of years for solar energy. I'm not sure of that date, but, so there's concern, and maybe more in a couple of years, but there's concern, what's gonna happen then? Because without that, it doesn't pay.
Right.
Without the subsidy, it doesn't come out. So by that time, they're gonna have so many of these things in place that they're gonna have to do something to keep them going because they can't literally just pull the rug out. I mean, I guess they can, but it's gonna pretty much destroy the whole industry. So that is that's the big if, is what's gonna happen years down a couple years down the road when the incentive, when the subsidy incentive changes. It's much like gasol, ethanol. Take away the subsidy, it doesn't pay. So, but right now, Hubble's willing to do what they need to do to try to do and work with Hubble to get their stuff done.
Thank you.
Any questions? Other
Uh,
questions?
On the dinner train, I've been asked to ask the board if any volunteers will be available to meet and greet at the train when they drop people off here in Columbia on that Sunday. And tell them kind of what we got going on and what time to be back so they don't miss the train. So keep that in the back of your mind. And that's Sunday, June 2nd.
Thank you.
If somebody's available for that, please let me or Jeannie or Mary know. Thank you.
From economic development, we're moving on to the park board. There's a meeting agenda in your packet. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, moving on to the cemetery board. We have
The cemetery board actually had a meeting, and the minutes are in your packet, and they made 2 concrete recommendations to the council, for both of which require legislative action in the form of ordinances. And if you've read the minutes, Phyllis is here to give you more elaborate information if it's desired.
I think it's worth pointing out the changes.
Changes?
Yeah, what the recommendations are.
Well, we are recommending, first on the gray spaces. Right now, we're selling them for $150 a piece. And once we open up the northeast section, which is directly west of McDonald's, they were recommending that those gray spaces be sold at $300 a piece. When we went out, actually Heather's emailed the other city clerks and asked questions about what they were paying. The average of the 15 answers that she received back was about $200 a space now. So probably by the end of the year or the first of the next year, we may be starting to sell spaces in that area. We won't sell anything in that area until we have everything sold in the northwest section. And we've got, maybe 50 spaces. But if someone comes in and buys 10 or 15 at a time, which kind of has been known to happen in that area here lately, that will go pretty quickly. So, but right now, those spaces will be sold at 150, and then they're recommending that the new section, the northeast section, would be sold at $300. Yes.
Do you remember when the last time they raised the prices of those?
No, I don't know. It's been this price since I've been here for 5 years, so. I don't know.
If it's an important piece of information, I'll get the code book, because it's,
No, that's all right. I was just curious as to,
Yeah,
how what the space is between, increase in the price.
the grave digging fees have been changed somewhat recently, a couple of times since I've been
Yeah.
here, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure the grave sales prices have been changed.
Okay.
As you recall, in putting together this year's budget, it was real tight to get a budget that would break even,
Right.
because we're not receiving any significant income from investment in perpetual care.
Right.
And this way, we stand to get some bridge income, and it will also help return the cost of doing the survey in the new section.
Nope, that's fine. Thanks.
If you do this, it will take an ordinance. This is less pressing than the ordinance that also talked about.
Okay.
The next thing we had was the grave opening proposal. As you see, currently, to open a grave, currently, the adult is $425, and Mr. Whaling is requesting that he could raise that to $475. As you see, it's oversized. We have always kept the current price, but he's requesting that to be raised also, along with the infant and the cremains. I found out that his last pay or increase was in March of 2004, so he has had this current price for quite some time. He's very knowledgeable of our cemetery. He has the equipment, he has the personnel to get it done. They are very courteous. If you are in question as to whether someone is actually buried in a space, he has the equipment that he can check out that before he starts digging. And he always puts down, I was out there Friday morning in the rain with him, and he was putting down boards to drive his equipment on so that he wouldn't put ruts into the yard. So he's very courteous and mindful of what he's doing. So he is proposing these changes that would be effective immediately upon your approval.
It would take two ordinances, one amend the city code on what we charge, and another to enter into a new contract, supplanting the current one, which is an automatic year-to-year renewal. Phyllis and Heather checked, there's no professional company that's doing similar work on a regular basis. You can always find somebody with a backhoe willing to do it, but it's not just digging a hole in the ground.
Right.
It's got to be very carefully done. They do the restoration of the ground surface once the funeral. So the service is more than just digging a hole in the ground.
Right. He always cleans up his dirt. He never leaves a pile of dirt there. They have a key that goes out here to the old landfill that he takes the extra dirt there if he needs to. And he also is very good and very knowledgeable on repairing the monuments if need be. We had several last year that were either had fallen over or tilted to the point where they were just about to fall over, and he helped us get some of those repaired. So
So what we see in here is the current rates, is that what we're paying him?
that's what we're paying him.
And the
And-
proposed rates is what his new contract would be for?
Yes, and actually the proposed rates are also too, is what he is charging Fenton's and Oliver's when he doesn't have to go through the city, you know, when it's not a city burial. So, as you can see, the city's been paying somewhat less of what the others have been paying when it's not a city burial. So,
Now, at these rates, there wouldn't be any financial benefit to the city because it's just a pass-through.
Right.
There's no markup.
No markup at all.
Well, I'm wondering if there shouldn't be.
Dennis,
Because
what constitutes a city burial?
when they're buried in the city cemetery,
as opposed to,
as opposed to being buried out here at Glendale.
Oh,
Uh,
I was-
Yeah,
because I mean, there are other costs, because there's costs for office time and everything else for,
Right.
when they do open graves, and I was wondering if maybe we shouldn't recoup a little bit of that. And maybe charge a little bit more than what he charges us, so that we do recoup a little bit of that.
It is a possibility that you don't want to stick people in their time of grief. Thing is, we don't bury enough people per year that even if you upped it $25 a space or something that would make it a significant budget.
I realize
You'd
that.
have to tack on $100 a space to really have a budget impact.
I understand that, I just don't think, that the city is taking a loss on some time, and maybe some of that should be recouped.
if I have to go out on the weekend and meet with him, because whenever he does a burial, I meet with him. And we double check the space and make sure that, yeah, this is the space we're talking about. Besides that, Sandy and I go out and locate it before that. So it's double check, triple check.
I
But
mean,
if I meet with him on a Saturday, and I'm gonna get deep
Yes,
here,
you will.
but I wait until I've been out maybe 3 or 4 times before I charge the city anything. Because I'm only out there 10, 15 minutes.
well, and I realize that, but I mean, it still is, there's a certain amount of time, and I just wonder if we
Yeah.
shouldn't be recouping a portion of that. And, you know, $25 or $50 added to this is not a budget breaker or anything. It's certainly not gonna make us any much money, but it does recover the cost of some of our time and cushions us a little bit.
For that. But that's on the ordinance we passed.
So the last time that the rate was increased was May of 2003. And I don't know what it was before the
For
rate
grave
was
digging or,
150.
digging or selling?
For the price of a burial space.
Okay,
Okay.
for the, okay, for the
Yeah.
rest of May of 2003? Okay,
Right.
so that was before my time.
Mhm.
May of 2003.
Out of curiosity, do we know do other municipalities mark up that type of thing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Did
Do
you
other
ever ask when she
municipalities?
surveyed, did they mark up
Um,
on Wayland's?
I don't know. It wasn't indicated here. Wayland's do have a cemetery it involves that they also take care of. And they charge a permit fee is what he calls it, of $50. And that, as he's saying, is trying to cover his cost of paperwork and that kind of thing. But we talked about that in our meeting. No one else made mention as to that they wanted to start with a permit fee. So there really wasn't, it was brought to their attention, but they didn't
Actually,
take and run with it.
what most people call a permit fee is an interment fee that includes the digging and also the services that Wayland charges.
Right.
and there's no real permit included in it.
I type up a permit, it's a little piece of paper and just has the pertinent information on it. We keep it in file here and I send a copy of it to Scott.
Don, you think-
Oh, one other question I had too. You said that the average of the 15 other cities was $200. Do you know what the range was?
Good question.
Well, the ones that Heather's early in the game told me included 300 in Camden, 200 in Iberia, 500 in Mexico, 300 in Tipton. So, pretty good spread.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the remainder fell, because
Well, I would assume everything you mentioned has been at or above what, or higher than what the $300
Yeah,
proposal is.
some of them
So I'm
are
assuming there's a lot of smaller towns that are doing
Some of them are
cheaper.
even charging for, if you sold or buried someone on the weekends, you get a different price, you know. So, you know. I mean, that-
Wow.
that's also one of those bite your tongue, because
Schedule.
so many burials are scheduled on weekends because they have large families that have to come in from other cities, and it's the only time they can do it.
Yeah.
It's becoming more and more common practice.
Sure.
I mean, I'm just wondering whether, you know, if we go to $300, is that the recommendation for the grave spaces? For the new,
But the new section,
There's a new section on it. And then after that section's full,
we're full.
there is no more.
But we also have no more money coming in to maintain the cemetery after that either. And that's what I'm looking at, is it sure would be nice to build up a little bit of money in advance of selling out everything. Because we still have the obligation of maintaining it after there are no spaces available.
I'm sure interest rates will be up before then.
So, I don't know, I mean, that's just where I'm coming from. I don't like us to see us with perpetual loss and knowing that there's going to be a loss in the future. We have no more grave spaces at all because we will have no income from it.
Are you proposing a flat rate or a percentage
You mean for the burial?
on the grave opening?
Probably a flat rate.
So just an extra 50 or whatever the number is, just tack it on.
Yeah.
What's the average, I guess, typical year for burials? Do you have that?
No, I don't.
mm, 4 a month on average.
4 months?
3 or 4.
48 or 50 a year?
I would no more than 50, I would think.
Yeah.
Kind of comes in waves, but I don't recall seeing bills that would be for more than 3 or 4 a month as well.
Whenever it's cold and it's raining, that's when you're gonna have a burial.
Yeah.
We can prepare ordinances for next Monday, get your direction if you want.
Let's see a little bit, Counselor.
What's it?
Your recommendation, based on what Don had brought up.
I would have a tendency, I'm into user fees, and you have a resource there that is getting scarcer. And generally, it's scarcity increases, prices increase.
Sure.
Do you know what it costs over across the road to buy a plot
No, I don't.
at Glendale?
Well, right here, single space, $195.
Okay.
We raise our prices, he'll probably raise his.
In 8 years, he hasn't raised it much, because I bought mine 8 years ago, it was for $175.
But we haven't gone up in quite a few years
10.
either.
Yeah.
10 years.
So we might have been artificially keeping the rate here locally
No, possibly.
low.
We were depressed.
You're raising,
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering about maybe raising the rates on the existing lots some, and then raising it on the newer ones when we open.
That would be my suggestion. I'm not sure why we're waiting to raise the rates on the other ones.
I mean,
If
we don't
they're
necessarily
low.
have to raise the old ones as much, but it would certainly be nice to be somewhere in between,
What, $50?
50 or 75,
So the old spaces go to 200 then?
or 2 or 2 and a quarter.
Okay. And then the new state, 3 or
Well,
three?
if you go to 3 or
350 on
even
that.
350.
Hey,
I mean, I'm just
no
suggesting.
offense, but I think our ground's a lot better than Mexico, so they're getting 500.
I kind of agree with you, and they're so close to us that obviously they're setting the, that's the price we need to meet, right?
I think we just got quoted.
Yeah, exactly.
You know it's worth more if you pay more for it.
I know Lynn's looking for a recommendation as to what we have ready for next meeting.
Yes.
So we all in agreement to at least have the ordinance drawn up to say 200 for the old and 350 for the new, which is a $50 increase from what the recommendation was.
I guess I don't really see why there's a differentiation.
Between old and new.
A lot.
Because Tommy's 195 across the road.
I mean, it's still the Centralia Cemetery.
Yes.
I think the thing that I thought about was that most everybody knows that it's $150 now.
So
So
what you're saying,
when it comes out in the paper that the new section is gonna be 300, it's
You
gonna be a
will
run on.
have all the 50 lots sold and it will be academic.
Yeah.
And that's entirely possible if they
Yeah.
realize that.
I mean, if you're trying to make an incentive to fill up the empty slots, I can understand that.
Now there's, the first 2 rows, as you drive off the highway, you go into the cemetery, first 2 rows on the right-hand side, they are reserved right now in case, when we have, services out there as, Memorial Day weekend, we'll sit bleachers there. So those 2 rows, we could sell them at some point, but right now, they're not being sold. They're reserved. And that would include right where the directory is, up to the north. So,
Right, I mean, it's not like there's a good neighborhood and a bad neighborhood.
actually, you'd be surprised how many people want to be underneath the shade tree or with a
Oh,
good
yeah.
view.
and they
I
wanna
understand that
know who,
completely.
they wanna know who you're gonna be next to. And they're, oh, well,
You want to have good neighbors when you die, I
Oh,
guess.
boy.
Don't go there.
Told the riffraff.
That's right, I love being with the riffraff.
Well, I mean, that is not a possibility. We just set all the same rate.
I mean, I'm not really suggesting that, I was just looking for clarification why.
well, we had one member of the committee who was not happy with the $300. They thought it was too high. So, but the other hand was, inflation in the next few years. And it's gonna take a little while to sell all those spaces in the northeast section, I would think, unless somebody comes along
But that mowing contract comes up
I
every year,
know.
Yeah.
and that's where we lose money.
and I know.
Well, you make a great point. If we're not trying to incentivize them to either go one way or the other, why is there a different price then?
Well, the only thing I would see is that if we went with an increase on the northwest quadrant now, you wouldn't be selling these others until later, so it would be a price increase when it got over there. So it would be a few years off.
Well, the surveyor is not quite finished setting all the stakes. But we need to
Right.
open up this section.
So I mean, you're not selling those yet, but I mean, people would look and see, oh, in the future, these are gonna be higher, and, we're just doing an interim price increase on what's left. But I mean, it does pay back a little bit of the cost of what our mowing contract, because it has gone up. and it's likely to continue.
Well, he's
going
saying
up in
it'll
the future.
continue to go up, I mean, it's just.
I mean, that's just inflation. So, I mean, I'm thinking that maybe we should capture some of that now and help against the mowing, because sooner or later, we're gonna be eating that total cost.
Make them all 300.
So we can do that. But I'm not sure the 300 is enough on the new porches either,
Make them
several years down, the road. On the other hand, we can always increase them later also.
You could put an automatic percentage rate increase
Cost of,
yearly.
Cost of living rate?
Cost of dying rate figured in there
Wow.
yearly. Add 5% per year,
Could this be a death tax?
more or less.
Well, let's just, yeah, we digress. What would you like to do? I mean, just so I get it.
300's fine with me.
300 for either one, either.
Four-
For all
400 for all of them.
I was like, to get an auction now. Kevin,
Well, I have a question. Is there a special area designated for those being cremated, or is
No.
it the same?
It's
So,
the same.
because I know that takes up a whole lot less room.
Yeah, but you can also put more than one cremains in a burial space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
If
if
it's
that's
a
a
family member, you can go back with remains and put it where somebody else is previously buried, and you have to buy new space.
Right.
Okay.
So what they do, postpone it or what?
He's got Oh,
Drop the
he
urine.
he digs it by hand, and I'm telling you, whether it's dug by hand or whether it's dug by a backhoe, it is a perfect square, perfect level at the bottom, perfect. It's amazing. I wouldn't believe it.
Kevin, what are your thoughts?
300.
300, okay. I'm leaning toward the 300 myself. And,
I like at least 350.
Oh, yeah, he's gonna be different.
Right, I'm just taking the average.
and last but not least,
Yeah, I think the 300 is a good mark, and you can always go up.
Yeah, we could go up on the northeast side.
that's what I thought.
You know, if they start selling more lots, we can just keep,
Right,
We're gonna revisit.
we aren't locking ourselves in
No,
for
absolutely
forever.
not. This
No.
is for,
Right.
So,
the
and
300.
you usually don't sell,
300.
like the northeast, you won't sell until you got the other side full, right?
It's the majority.
Okay, 300.
And then I would recommend increasing the proposed rates for grave opening by $25.
I was thinking more like 50,
Well, the proposed rate is
the Wayland's fee
$50.
plus 25?
Yes, sir.
So instead of 475,
500,
500.
550, 350,
Yeah.
and 300.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's 3 ordinances, then we can prepare. There it is.
What did you think of that?
I think it's fine. I think if you aren't
It
getting
wouldn't even hurt
interest,
me to go higher than
Pardon?
$25.
You want to
I'd be inclined to go 50.
Yeah, $50.
I would like to amend the motion.
Was there a motion?
There wasn't a
No, I
motion.
just
There wasn't.
recommended.
So 525 for the
Right.
grave opening.
I'm comfortable with that.
525, 575, 375, and 325.
You are with that.
And if they're too high, we'll go elsewhere.
And then it'll last a little longer.
Staff's recommendation is, once those are all sold, we don't recommend expanding to a different site.
I would,
Leave it to the
I
private
would agree
sector.
with that, yes.
I would concur with the stats.
All right.
Well, I'm thinking if they bought a plot, they're not going to have much they can say about whether or not they get that grave opened, or else they just leave it there and.
Maybe tell it somebody else, but I mean, it's, you're right, Dave, either they're gonna use Wayland's or nobody.
So that will be available for next meeting. First vote on.
And barring illness or emergency, they will be on the agenda.
Anything more?
Thank you.
Mr. Drake?
Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you, Phyllis. Moving on to the tree board.
No reports, sir.
Library board, will leave you the information in your packet. Take their agenda.
They meet tomorrow night?
Moving on to April financial statements, any questions?
It's only the first month of the fiscal year, there's no trends there. We are slightly off on sales tax compared to what I had said as targets. I've not been in a position to analyze why yet. It's not major though, it's just minor.
We'll blame it on sequestration.
On the investment report, the cemetery fund, is that the total endowment there?
No. The cemetery fund, not the last time we bid out, but the time before that, we had, basically nothing but pooled investments. And then the rates for those pool investments got so bad that we said, we always have this much in, and it's more than what we guarantee. Can you give us a better rate? And they gave us not exactly a CD rate, but somewhat better. And those 200, 600, 1 million, just the total of $1 million is basically a super pooled investment rate and doesn't reflect what's in the perpetual care fund, which I believe is about 380, but 0.06% a year on 380,000. It's still not real money.
Any other questions on the April financial statements? Moving on to bills over $1,250. Gatherers.
What's the Crown Power,
Page 72.
What'd you say?
4,067,
Unit number
repair,
49.
and it was,
Parts and repair.
yeah,
It's unit 49.
Dave has,
Sorry, what was it?
the Crown Power Equipment, Unit 49, Parks and Repair. It's got an amount for 4,067, and it's 4,360.
okay, $60 for bucket repair, backhoe, teeth, 200 on backhoe, service call, because they did some service out there. Most of it was on 1449, which
So what you're saying is there was a big bill and then there was a couple of smaller ones?
a very large bill for service on the backhoe.
Okay.
And let's see what the majority of that was.
What happened to the backhoe?
I don't know. Sometimes it's just maintenance or a engine part gives out. I'm afraid I don't recall the details on this. I will ask and have a report before you approve the bills at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And I'll have a detail.
Any other questions on the bills?
How did our inspection for the towers come out?
Haven't heard a report. I don't, Mike would have told me if there was any problem. So I assume that they came, they looked, they sent us a report, we can go to DNR saying they're all okay.
Other general government? Did you have anything else?
No, not on the sign, sir.
Okay. Moving on to public safety, city prosecutor.
Last time I talked to April Wilson, she said she's going to be giving a training session for the police after one of the future court meetings soon. And when she does that, she will stay over, and whether it's a committee meeting or a council meeting, she will be available to meet and greet, give a report, and answer your questions. And I will know far enough in advance that it will be on the agenda for that committee meeting.
Great. Police department. There's an activity report in your packet. Any questions? All right, police department, other. Anything to report?
Business as usual.
Take the bag out off the street, Sherman.
Pretty much. Get ready for Frankfurt.
I did receive a request from a citizen today whose children approached him saying that it would be really a neat idea if there were crosswalks at the intersection of Jefferson and Switzerland, connecting where there are sidewalks, which would be the north side and the east side. I took a quick look. Once we're complete with the Switzerland construction, I don't see any problem at all with one on Switzerland itself. Adding a crosswalk on the north side of that intersection without putting a stop sign in would, I think, would take a lot of education for drivers, although we have several along Jefferson Street that are mid-block crosswalks and that sort of stuff. They certainly entail then pedestrian signs coming and going. But the request would be for you to take a look at that sometime, and the police department to take a look at it. Particularly Larry, since he lives on that corner. And I'll put it on a future agenda. We can discuss it again.
Absolutely.
Whether it would be an improvement or just an increased hazard for that vicinity.
For where now? Switzer?
Across from the old Sun Oil Company building,
And they want a crosswalk in there?
crosswalk going from sidewalk to sidewalk across Whistler, and then from sidewalk to sidewalk across Jefferson on the north side of the intersection.
Thank you, sir. Fire department, activity reports in your packet.
Denny noted there wasn't anything major in the past month. The report spoke for itself, and he had some conflicts dealing with his job, so if you have questions, I can have him come to the regular board meeting, but he didn't think there was a question. There was no
Emergency management.
nothing to report.
I'm sorry, there's a tickle in my throat. Protective inspection.
We haven't had any new building permits for housing construction in the last month. I'm expecting several to come in pretty soon, but nobody's pulled the trigger yet. I think Mr. Romine down on Pool Street will start fairly soon. Hubble has exercised the permit that I issued earlier, and they have commenced work on the project that's phase one under their EPZ project list, which is more than $2 million of improvements on the engineering building. I believe that this week they're supposed to be pouring foundation and pads for the external elevator that's going to be part of the project. So they're going to town rapidly. Mr. Metter's house is down and there's some yard work leveling to be done, but that is essentially complete. As of the end of the day, the Dairy Queen should be down.
It was when I came through.
The only delay on that had been waiting for an asbestos report. Mrs. Yeager assures me that her contractor should be working before the weekend comes, and she's on more of a deadline. We have the signed contracts for Melanie Kemper for the house on Coulter Street and for Phil Crump and Mrs. Donaldson for the house, almost the remaining house on Allen Street, just north of Switzler, where there's a vacant lot where Sammy's Smoke Shop used to be, and then there's a house that doesn't look all that bad from the front, but is evidently bad inside, and they're going to be tearing down selling as a lot. I don't have the demolition permit complete for Mrs. Otmo yet, but the old Eleanor Lyons house on Central Street. The demolition permit for the house that was damaged by the fire in this 300 block of South Allen is finished in-house, but I'm waiting for a signature that the gas line has been disconnected, and then the same person who's been taking down the thing will take down that house in reasonably short order. A large number of these should be accomplished before Anchor Festival.
Okay.
Wednesday, Sandy said she's gonna bring me a whole bunch of grass and weed notices that will go out, and people will have a chance to do some work over the weekend. If not, there'll be hearings scheduled for next Monday, and we'll probably do a second round right before Anchor Festival. So we can maximize the amount of effect in making the city look nice. All it will depend is what the weather's gonna do, because we have several lots, particularly those with absentee owners, where they haven't been able to get in because we haven't had decent weather for them to schedule a time to get them mowed. So, but we're working on that.
Any word from Eric on the status of the church?
No,
No?
but he'll make a report at the regular meeting.
Okay. And have we heard anything from Mr. De La Rosa?
No, just get ready.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Might need to try to make him visit sometime.
Exactly.
Well, other than him showing me his diary of time spent improving the property,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, we haven't forgot about that one. So, something needs to be done with it, I think.
And speaking of that, are we gonna let them park cars along that building during the car show? In case something does happen?
I would highly recommend against it,
Yes.
so.
I'll go to the chamber meeting at noon tomorrow, and I'll mention that to Jenny.
I mean, if they can move it down Allen Street, you know, if they got to, or
Yeah.
something, because I'd hate for it to fall on
$50,000 car.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's just about my fault. Well, there's clear liability there, and that just about created a problem forever.
Probably would.
Yeah.
But I'll talk to Jenny about that, and the chamber sort of farms out the car show to a support group that knows how to handle that, so we'll pass the information on. But it's a good suggestion. Right now, the only cars in danger are the ones that he's quote, working on, or his own car.
Speaking of Anchor Fest and parking, we're going to request the police department put the no parking signs like they posted last year in the area.
Oh, the alley right over here.
Yes, that alley and that other street.
Bob, do you know they requested that?
No request to be made as of yet.
I would assume that they would expect it to be.
Yeah, I assume,
every
yeah.
year, Since it wasn't.
Yeah, I would say go ahead and do that, so they're not up here after the Anchor Fest.
Let's just go ahead and
Complaining about
have
it.
some
Preempt.
preemptive
Yeah.
action
Yeah.
and make the request.
You'll carry that back to the chief?
Thank you, Bob.
Whenever you think about.
Next block out.
Right.
Like
Dr. Brown's
alley's over
office.
there by-
Right behind the armor shop's office.
That's your place.
Yeah, right, that's your place. The alley there, and both alleys. Just able to get people parking. They get people parking in there and they can't get in and out.
Who's that?
Yeah, well, the ambulance can't get back in there or something.
There's a house there that, I don't know whether they own it or it's a rental, but they have several vehicles that they park in the rear off of the alley.
All right. Anything else? Moving on to the Regional Missouri Municipal League meeting.
A reminder that on the 22nd, the regional division of the municipal league will have a meeting on Marshall, dinner meeting.
Nice, but the one that had good food in it.
Probably we'll get a review of what was true and finally agreed to pending vetoes from the municipal, because the legislative session is Friday. If I'm going, you're going, anybody else should, have you told, anybody else that intends to go should tell Heather so that you can plan ahead for the hit you on meeting.
I'd like to attend, but that's the week of graduation at MMA.
Think it might be hectic?
I'm guaranteed it will.
Oh, that's, I think that's real easy.
I
Yeah,
have
that's
either press play or the movie.
Just tell them that there's temporary technical difficulty and you'll be back up.
Downtime. All right, dust control on Ivy Street.
Okay,
You said the 22nd,
Yes,
22nd.
22nd.
which is a week from.
It's Wednesday, next
Next
week.
Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a week from Wednesday.
And I'm sure we're gonna arrange for 1 or 2 cars to do it, so. If it's my car, there won't be any mileage involved. Just let us know. Phil has been planning on doing another brief round of dust control on Columbia Street. Do you recall that was 600 and some bucks from the cheapest vendor, and it held up well. And so far this spring, it's been so wet that it's not really been an issue. But during the early spring, he did receive an inquiry from one of the residents over in the Ivy Street area, suggesting that lots of people shortcut through on Ivy Street and then through the Methodist Church parking lot. I don't know that it's all that heavy, and certainly the same condition applies there now that has been the case of Columbia Street. Bill's question is, do we need to put dust control on that, or is the traffic light enough that it's not an issue? It's hard to tell yet. Don't expect you to make a decision tonight. We would like you, if you're just out and about, particularly the alderman for that ward, to take a look and give us an idea before Phil does pull the trigger on bringing the dust control guy in, because it will be a lot simpler to do all at once rather than having him have to go 3 trips, which would likely be more expensive for us. And last time he piggybacked doing the middle of the cross lumber, but that's not gonna happen this year.
Right, do I have any Esme rise?
Yes, the adjuster has given his consent to take the
Let's
backup, the reparable truck, down to commercial truck body and paint in Columbia. And they will have to do some disassembly before they can give the insurance company a quote. And tell us when we might expect to get the truck back in operation. Once we have one truck, we can cover without having to rely on days. Now, I have not been given any number on what they will do on the truck that was told. I'm still waiting for that. But we have started the process on during the
And our deductible, that's $1,000 or, you know?
you would ask.
I'm sorry. Just curious.
I have a cheat sheet I can tell you, but I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Okay, that's fine. Later's fine.
$1,000 sounds right. For auto, I don't know that there's a deductible and liability, and the $1,000 may only apply to comp collision,
Oh,
which we should have kept
okay.
on trash truck since they're so expensive and hard to fix.
Okay. Nope, that's fine. Thanks.
Any luck on finding a used trash truck?
The website,
I looked last week and I saw a 2013 one for 160,000, but then you'd have to add all the additional, the rear tilt and the kick bar and all that stuff. So,
Phil found one that was 25 yards and did have a kick bar,
yeah,
and it was for, I think he said 167.
yeah.
I have not looked it up myself.
Okay.
And
Which I'm
what we
assuming
have available will determine what we should go looking for.
Right.
And unless you determine that it's sufficient to go out and start from scratch with bidding for a new truck and waiting until it's assembled and delivered, it won't necessarily be a bidding situation. It'll be, we'll come out, we will identify possibilities, give you the sites where you can look at them and then discuss them with you.
I did receive an email last week asking us not to contract out the trash service.
I got the email also.
I got the email, plus phone calls.
I suspect that several of us got the one email.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, I don't know.
I didn't get any contact, so,
Did you get a phone call or anything?
no.
Okay.
So what were the reasons?
Didn't keep them up.
Yeah.
You said you had several contacts?
Yeah, and they wanted to keep it local and didn't want, two guys to be out of a job.
Yeah.
That may be something we can finesse, but I certainly
Yeah.
have heard the same request about keeping control of our own services.
Yeah, I can read it real quick, it's pretty short. I would like to urge you not to outsource our sanitation service. When we outsource it, it seems that we not only lose money and personal service, but we lose our valued city employees and quality of service that only our city employees deliver to the citizens of Centralia. I know we are spoiled by our excellent employees, but they are one of the reasons Centralia is an envied place to live. Replace our trucks. I realize insurance probably will not cover the total cost, but I feel like keeping our sanitation department in-house is important. And I got that from Janet Holden.
She also gave me a call.
And they were worried about the prices going up too.
Yes.
Getting in a contract with somebody and then, then they say, well, next year it's gonna be higher.
That's the way of the world, particularly
Yeah.
if gas goes up.
Right,
My guess is it's gonna go up anyway, even if we keep it, but, because of gas and everything else, but that's beside the point.
Then we can keep track of the billing and all that stuff too.
Well, that we would keep anyway.
Yeah.
when we bid out, we did it where I did the contract on WordPerfect exhaust, and I haven't located the old copy yet, and/or a file with the old results, so.
It's right next to your abacus.
No, it's next to the charcoal stick and the questions.
Exactly.
Yeah. All
Um,
right.
So I still need to locate that, and in a future meeting, we can look at what we did last time.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other resume,
And
Ross?
then I got an email from a guy, asked why we've been patrolling in the new cop truck, or police truck.
Say that again, why?
Why we've been patrolling in the new police officer truck. We thought that was, he thought, he read it in the paper that it was for bad weather to patrol that. When we
Well,
had bad weather.
It's
for
the
It's
code
it's for the
enforcement
code
truck.
enforcement officers, for the dog catcher.
He's talking about after like 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night.
If they get a dog call at that time, I guess they take it out and use that.
I mean, it was out yesterday.
Was
The
it?
SRO driver was in it yesterday. I seen her on Jefferson Street.
We'll have.
I'm just asking.
What time?
Yeah, listen to it.
Graduation.
He
2:30.
knows he covered.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
They just think that's a lot of gas being wasted patrolling around in a
Well,
F-250.
that truck is probably not going to sit there not being used, except during bad weather. It will be used when as needed, but, the purpose of buying it was to make sure we had a four-wheel drive vehicle during bad weather, not just for bad weather.
And I understand.
But Sandy should be the
Yeah.
principal driver,
Yeah.
and the other, what has been the four-wheel drive that she drives.
Yeah.
Was supposed to be driven mostly by bias.
And it wasn't, they said the brown car was sitting up at the police station, in front of the police station, and they were patrolling in the new truck. And I said,
I don't know ratios, I don't know the, I mean, I agree with you in the sense that the truck's primary purpose I know is for Sandy, also for inclement weather, but that wasn't a mutually exclusive type thing where it can only be for those things, in lieu of anything else, but I don't think it should be a normal patrol car. I mean, I don't think that was the intent, but I can't answer.
And everybody just says they've seen it more than they ever seen the Dodge truck patrol.
It's cooler. There you go.
That's it, it's cool.
I was just,
Other than having a special reason to sneak up on people that don't recognize it, I don't know why.
You just got the light bars and all that stuff.
It is more recognizable than,
Yeah.
Not very much.
it looks like a DOT truck.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's much more recognizable when you see it out there, so I think it's, sometimes people see it and they may not realize that, that they were seeing the other vehicle sometime also. I don't know.
So,
We'll get an explanation from the
Yeah.
department.
Honest. Let the goof.
He knew this was coming up, so he left.
All right.
Any other resume?
Was that just one that went off?
No, I think that was.
yeah, that was mine that went on.
Any other resume, Ross? I would entertain a motion.
I'm sorry. Wednesday, the governor has asked that all flags be flown at half-staff in memorial of all the law enforcement officers that have lost their lives in Afghanistan. So I've asked Lynn to do that as well.
It's on my calendar.
Would you say Wednesday?